than our own self. We just get so much, I would say, controlled by the anxiety that we can't be in our true self. We don't want to be, but anxiety just overpowers us. So let's see how it goes today, and from there, looking forward to hear everyone.
Let's go to Vasavi. Vasavi, if you can introduce yourself. Thank you.
So I have done the Meta Health Level 1 workshop twice, and I have also done the color workshop. And I consider myself a constant student of mental health. So I am in this panel just because I am very interested in this topic. And I think anxiety is something that it is a part of daily life, and sometimes it can cross limits when we are constantly in our past or in our future, and we are not able to actually be in the present. We are constantly on pins and needles about what might happen or what might not happen, or what has already happened. So I feel when we live in the past and the future, then we're not able to be in the present, and that is why we get anxious.
Thank you so much for that. Let's go to Yogini.
Hi, my name is Yogini. I am an engineer by my education, a mind coach by my passion, and a plant based eater by situation. And this topic of anxiety is something that I deal day in and day out with my clients. It's become so common. But as more and more I work, I realize that anxiety is nothing but a fancy name given to fears. When fears not taken care at the right time and manifested more physically, they are called anxieties. Because हम हमेशा डर के आगे जीत है, वो डरने की क्या बात है? So people's fears are actually subdued and then they eventually create anxieties. So if we understand that problem and we realize that fears are nothing to be worried about because they're not even happening, it's just a play of our mind, anxiety can be controlled. And as far as me, I think I was very lucky, and my whole family always said my name is Yogini, and ये बिल्कुल Yogini है. I never had this, luckily, touch wood, never had this anxiety. I'm a very calm, peaceful person. No time limit, nothing bothers me. अपने time पे काम करो. So working with people with anxiety is very fascinating, and I'm able to kind of help them out better because I understand that यार कुछ change नहीं होता है. My whole life I have not followed rules of done certain timings and nothing has changed. Life still moved on. It doesn't change. So I love helping people with anxiety issues, and it's a lovely topic, Dr. Anu. I mean, people should really come up with this.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Gopal Krishnan or Gopu, the only man in this group right now. I must call another man actually. I knocked on someone's door and said, "Would you like to be?" And I said, "Not today." I said, "Why?" "I got a dental work done." "Okay, next time." So, Gopuji, for now, you are the only one here.
ठीक है, कृष्ण कन्हैया बनते रहूंगा तब तक. Yeah, so my name is Gopal Krishnan, for the whole world calls me Gopu. I am a consultant, coach, and mentor to a lot of startups and medium-sized companies. I help entrepreneurs raise the bar and go to the next level. I coach CEOs and the middle level management of companies. I'm here to help people overcome their anxiety.
Thank
So, what is anxiety? Anxiety is nothing but expectation and fear of success. Fear of success. So, that is what is anxiety all about. It could be fear of success, it could be fear of failure also. Both are anxiety. So, my wife is an anxiety patient. She goes through panic attacks and she's undergoing treatment for that for the last 10 years. But she's much better than what she was probably uh, around 10 years back. So that
for
that I know firsthand what is anxiety.
I can imagine you live with anxiety every day.
Yes, yes, it can strike any day to her at just you know just like that. It can come anytime. When it will come, nobody can predict. It's not like a influenza or a fever or something like that. Sometimes you're going to get a cold or You have a bad throat, you're going to get into an infection or something. This is
Gopuji,
not like
into your mic. The
yeah,
voice is,
this is not like that. This is
yeah.
very spontaneous and very fast. It can come anytime. So and there are many triggers to that. So we have to keep watching for those signals to come. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So each one of you gave your input on what you think is anxiety. Let's discuss certain areas of anxiety right now that could impact, or certain things that could create anxiety. We will go into the meta meaning of anxiety much later, and only if it is required. But for everybody right now, let's talk at the language that everybody can. And some of you said you worked with anxiety, some of you said you live with someone who's got anxiety, and some of you said that you have anxiety yourself. Now, how does one differentiate between a fear and anxiety? Because some of you said, oh, expectation is anxiety, some of you said, oh, fear is anxiety, and I've heard a lot of psychologists say, and I've heard them because I've been sitting in a lot of counseling sessions to understand more about conventional kind of counseling, and they say, oh, anxiety and fear is one thing. Now, is there a difference between what could be anxiety, what is, when do you know that you've tilted from one end to another? Okay, so let's ask Dr. Rashmi Arora if she can figure out what's the difference between, when do you know your fear has become anxiety?
For me, fear and anxiety are two different things. Fear is something which is very real, or it has happened in the past. Not real, it could be perceived, but it has happened in the past. And anxiety is anticipating of that fear to return.
Can you give a concrete example there?
For example, somebody, you heard a news that somebody has passed away, and it's on phone. And then another time when you're picking up the phone, it comes up suddenly and say, "Oh, I might not hear that news." That is anxiety.
So it's
The
not
first
even,
time it was a,
it's not even happening,
it's
but you're
not even happening. It
thinking,
might be a pleasurable news, but
but
it's an anticipation of some fear which occurred in the past.
has it to be always a bad news?
Uh, for me, yes, but for others, it may be a good news also. Some people have anxiety from good news also. They have it's called as I'm missing that word. I'll come back with that later.
No problem, no problem. Let's go to Sumita. Sumita, what's the difference between anxiety and fear?
And with the, like you were saying, the clinical, anxiety is a disorder. It is a classified as a disorder in a clinical psychology perspective. And the basically the examples, if you say like panic attacks or even obsessive compulsive or even post traumatic stress disorder, so they all come in the category of it's a wide spectrum anxiety disorder. So, but if we talk in the layman language, it is basically a worry. It could form just in the form of a very simple worry. I'm always worried that, oh, if my daughter goes out for playing, so she might fall down. It could be as simple as that. It's a worry, which is gradually transformed. And maybe once she fell down, so then I become more concrete. Oh, see, this has happened. So this just gets into my mind. And I become gradually always anxious. The moment he says, I want to go down with my friends, I become anxious. And that slowly and slowly, it carries on to the point that I don't allow my daughter to go out alone. I'll always be with her. Or, somehow, so it starts with a very small thing, and it just gets into it gets transformed into a disorder, because if we have gotten DSM-4 and it's a clinical disorder, so you
Yeah.
can understand the spectrum from where it starts. But usually it starts from a very small worry or anxiety, or a kind of a, like she said, fear, something that, oh, it has happened or not happened, but it's somewhere there in my mind that this could happen.
Isn't it strange that worry is considered in the social culture as love? I worry for someone and people perceive that as love. Oh,
Yeah,
that
so
means,
that's a
oh,
very thin line.
yeah, she's so loving towards her child because she's always worried. And oh, she's never worried, she's so bindas, that means oh, she's not worried, she's not at all, she doesn't really love, she doesn't really care. So somebody not worrying is considered as someone not caring, and someone a little bit worried is considered as caring. And now we are actually hearing from a clinical psychology point of view that it actually begins as a worry, like social drinking. It actually begins with something as innocent as that, and then you drag
Yes.
it a bit too far. Before we go any further, I would like to introduce my last guest over here, Jane Shah. Jane, if you could please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Anu. So, my name is Jane, and I work mainly into financials and growth sector. So, I was really interested in this topic in a way that how much important is in our life to do away with financial worries, so that every other worries become less important, and that's something which I just want everyone to think about. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, since we are talking, what would you define difference between fear and anxiety, Jane?
So, probably most of you are either from a psychology background or doing some PhD. I'm not from background where I can define anxiety or fear, but from day-to-day understanding and what I have uh, observed, anxiety is a second nature for a lot of people, whereas fear comes and goes. So, probably currently people might be fearful about something, but next moment or next hour, that fear is no more. Whereas anxiety is a way of life. When you are eating, when you are drinking, when you are walking, it's there with you. So, that's my understanding about these two terms.
So much. I really appreciate. Let's go to Vasavi. Vasavi, what's the difference between fear and anxiety?
So I think fear is something that there's a real objective specific danger. Like you could be on a plane that's hijacked or at gunpoint, or you could feel okay, if the door of my apartment is not locked and I'm alone, someone can come in. I should go lock it. So these are very objective, and it's very easy to pinpoint the specific threat when there is fear. But I feel anxiety is a type of fear in that the threat goes away. You can no longer point at the source of the threat, it becomes unknown, but you're still living in that fight or flight response of how do I respond. So both the body goes into the same fight or flight response, but in anxiety it's more vague, because it may have happened one time, like as Dr. Sumita said, that you start associating certain environments with with an attack or with the fact that something is going to happen. So even though that threat is not present necessarily in that moment, your body is still responding with fight or flight. For instance, it could be the dining table in a family, where in the dining table, if there are a lot of arguments that happen only around the food and only around the mealtime when you sit across to eat, then maybe even before you go and sit on the table, you're already anxious that something's going to happen, and you put your walls up and your guards up and you're no longer spontaneous. So
Very,
that was an example of anxiety versus fear.
very good. Yogini, what according to you is the difference between fear and anxiety?
So I think anxiety is a level above fear. So every anxiety somewhere started with a fear or a worry. It could be with the loved one, and you're just possessive, and suddenly you hear some news. As Sumita ji was saying, it's just something that triggered it. Okay, there was a fear, but some news, something like you're worried about your daughter going out, and you hear about this Nirbhaya case. So that fear is now triggered by something that happened to probably someone else, is creating your anxiety. Okay, but anxiety is more physical than fears are generally in the head. Anxiety has a habit of manifesting into the body. So generally we have like headaches, we get this palpitations, people sweat, tremor, suddenly there's like a shiver, So anxiety is more manifestation in the physical body. So they are not exactly two different things, but they are at different levels. So anxiety, when understood right, and when you get the source where you pinpoint the fear, that's where you come to know, okay, now this is manifested. And I think most of the time it's a success failure fear. Losing control is very common among people, where you lose control. And as Vasvi said, it's a fight and flight mode. So when you feel that something unknown is coming, you are not ready for it. And when it strikes, it creates a fear, and that leads to anxiety. So it's just a pattern that you develop. Your fear develops into a pattern which creates anxiety, and which manifests into the body.
Absolutely. Let's go to Gopu Raman and ask him, Gopu, what do you feel is the difference between fear and anxiety?
Mhm. According to what I have seen happening at home, fear leads to anxiety. Fear is a precursor to anxiety. There could be other feelings of anxiety, other reasons for an anxiety attack is basically uh, some problems with children or upbringing of children or their progress in life could affect the parent. So that could lead to an anxiety attack. It could also be issues or politics in the office in terms of workplace environment and also, you know, getting stressed. When you get stressed, some people get anxiety attacks. So anxiety could, these things could cause anxiety, fear, stress, failure, uh, failure of self as well as family members. So, and also financial stress.
Thank you.
These are the common causes for anxiety.
Thank you so much. Joanne, you've worked with a lot of anxiety patients.
Yeah, so I
You've been,
think
you've been a meta trainer and a master trainer. She's very, very well equipped with a lot of psychology, lot of stuff, lot of tools. So, how do you differentiate between fear and anxiety? And if you want, you could get the meta view here. It's absolutely okay. Thank you. Hello? Hello? Okay, is it my computer or is it Joanne? Okay. Yeah. Yes.
sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. You
Can you?
frozen.
No,
Now I
I'm not
can
sure
hear
if
you.
it's mine.
That's okay.
No, no.
Yes.
Okay. So my feeling about the difference between fear and anxiety is that fear is there to help us. It's actually a biological mechanism that if there's a predator there, that we have this natural fear. So I feel that animals also have a fear, but anxiety seems to be more of a human thing that we've created because we're projecting into something. And many of you have used examples of social situations where we're feeling that feeling of fear and danger that would be normally a life or death threat situation. Anxiety is when we project that into human relationships and money issues and things like that. So it's more created by the mind, and it's triggering that biological fear mechanism.
Thank you so much. So well explained. So we've got over here the whole view of what fears are and what is an anxiety, and we could distinguish between, and different schools of thought would create a distinction between how they would look at. And I wanted a layman's point of view because we as lay people don't understand what's the difference between fear and anxiety. We use it together. Like if somebody's sad, they call themselves depressed. It's so easy to go to Google Baba and say, oh, what's happening? Okay, I'm depressed. And this is like self labeling, self putting stuff. What was most interesting when Sumita said, oh, it's actually worry, it's an obsession. They could be an obsessive compulsive disorder connected with anxiety. So, Sumita, a lot of people, and I can see that in myself also at times, that when I have to take off any worry, and I don't generally worry, but if I have one standing worry in front of me which I cannot avoid, I'll work a lot. I become a workaholic when I have to avoid any anxiety in my life or any worry in my life. Uh, what, according to you, because you're a psychologist and you've studied this material, so according to you, what really do people do? Is this like a coping mechanism? Is anxiety a coping mechanism? And what do they do? What obsessions could they get into just to deal with this worry?
So, Anu, when we talk about anxiety in general, so it's categorized as general anxiety disorders. It's called GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. So basically, like you said, very small things, which can turn into obsessions. And so these are definitely the coping mechanism or the defense strategies we as humans tend to use to cover up, because we don't want to show our anxiety. So if I know I am standing here and, I am getting really anxious about something like a messy house, which actually I am in terms of, I am a very cleanophobic person. Like, I really like a lot of cleanliness to be around me. And when there is even little mess or, I can foresee that mess is going to happen. So I definitely make it a, and I would say a very present decision that, how to work on it. So I have my tools and I use that. But a lot of people, if they don't know about it, and a layman person, so when I deal with my clients also, I can always tell them that, these are the tools you can use. But when they come to me, they always tell me, like I had a patient who was like a very young child, who had this obsession compulsive disorder, and the mother was not understanding what is the reason behind it. And he was constantly, going and washing hands, or even, just trying to be very clean. And the mother said, I don't. And she was really worried. It's been for years and years. So, under root, when we went to the underlying cause, so it was somewhere because he was not able to, take his father's abusive words, or somewhere the emotional part was so hit on. So, this was like a coping mechanism for him to, whenever he would just hear his father's abusive word or this thing, he would just go it. And that gradually became a habit. And every time he was just rubbing off was, to rub off, he somewhere wanted to just, rub off his father, but he couldn't do that. So somewhere he was just rubbing his hands and constantly cleaning it. So that's definitely in a way, that when this was really told about to the parents, and so it really came as a shock to them. They couldn't really register it for a long time, but actually they understood, and then they accepted it and acknowledged it. So it starts, like I said, where, and that time when the father started those abusive words were actually not for the child. He was using for his wife, or in a general way, but the child took it so personally. And he started, getting that fear. Oh, my father's going to do it again. Or he started getting worried and anxious about it, that he took it somewhere very internally. And this is the way it showed on. And there is no, I would say, medication for obsessive compulsive disorders. Or when people have panic attacks, they can be given mild anxiety medicines, but what else? How to cope with it?
Thank you so much. That was really insightful. Vasavi, I'm sure you've seen people around with certain obsessions, or if you have any obsessions, what really happens and how do you deal with it?
Okay. So, yes, I think that I have seen a lot of obsessions. For instance, I live with different people who have different obsessions. So, one of my family members needs everything to be very visually appealing, and the size of everything needs to be perfect. Everything needs to look really, really good to the eye. Then I myself had an obsession, and I still suffer from it sometimes, regarding my skin, where I am obsessed with inching up every inch of it, and I think I'll pick on it, and I'll do all sorts of things to it. So that I know is an obsession. And I also, actually, when I was 12, I had this obsession of washing my hands. It's very interesting that you brought that up, because I would wash my hands so much that the skin of my hands started peeling off. And it was, I maybe spent 2 hours in the toilet washing my hands, and if no one pulled me out, I wouldn't know that I was in there for that long. So and it came and it went on its own. So I think the way to deal with it, from what the more I'm understanding, is that these obsessions get created because we feel like we don't have control over our lives or over some part of our lives, and we feel that the only way we can control it is by obsessing. It's like how one would say that worrying will not make the person safer, or worrying will not change the reality of the situation. So just like that, obsessing does not actually change the outcome or the reality of the situation, but that's sort of like a coping mechanism which is unhealthy. So there's a way, maybe the route would be to look for healthier coping mechanisms, like meditating, or finding something you love, or um, spending some time with your friends. If you're not, if you're building that inner social circle where you feel like you're not out of control. Like sometimes we are constantly surrounded by people around which we feel anxious that something's going to happen. So maybe the thing would be just to build your friendships and relationships where you feel comfortable with that person and you don't have to feel anxious that something is going to happen. Yes.
Absolutely. Let's go to Jane. And Jane is very good with the financial and with the money stuff and the stories. And right now, during the COVID, I'm sure that a lot of people who went through money anxieties. So, Jane, do you see anybody anxious around you? Have you ever been anxious around money? And how do you guide people with the money anxieties? You're muted, sweetheart.
This has been interesting time for most of the people, and I guess nobody has seen such kind of a financial strain in their life. What they have experienced is last 8 to 9 months or over a period of time. Yes, there has been a lot of trouble with the people, and I think the easiest thing that one can do in terms of financial such turbulent time is keep quiet. The more you struggle and more you try to look for a clarity, uh, when there is no clarity, it creates more mistakes.
Ah,
So, mistakes to be avoided is the best way to gain financially. uh, it's like, there are 4 to 5 ways, but you don't know which way is going to create a scenario which will generate positive cash flow for you. And you keep trial and error. Money is something which trial and error doesn't always work out. So if there is no clarity about how the world is going to shape up or the business is going to shape up, you wait and watch till you have at least some amount of clarity, and then you take a step. So
isn't that true?
people have learned.
Just wait and watch and get clarity, and don't try getting clarity when there is nothing clear around you. That's
Yeah.
a beautiful message to give, Jane. And I think we can not just use it on the financial bit, but we can use it in our personal life. When you have no insight, that's the point when you keep quiet and really observe. What a beautiful advice. Wow. Rashmi from here.
I
Rashmi, yeah, you.
I somehow cannot hear you if you're asking me something.
Okay. Uh, Maybe you can look at the sound, and we can
Now
come.
I can hear you. Yes. Yeah.
So uh, I'm really grateful for this advice that you've given to be quiet and to not take anything and not do anything at that point when there is no clarity, because that itself can complicate things when we are trying to get too much of information at the time when there is no information. That's a superb advice. Let's go next to Dr. Rashmi Arora. Dr. Rashmi, have you worked with anxiety patients? Have you suffered from anxiety ever? Have you seen any family member of yours suffer from anxiety? If yes, could you brief us on what really happens? How do you try dealing with it?
I have worked with a lot of anxiety patients myself. And since I'm a homeopathic practitioner, I tend to work with homeopathic medicine, and the way is generally the body mind analysis as we do in meta health. It's the same aspect. But regarding my family, yes, my family, there are many people whom I've seen them closely with anxiety, and they've been dealing it for many, many years now. For myself, anxiety was very less. Uh, it was there, but it would have been episodic. But for the past couple of months, yes, I'm feeling that there is a lot of anxiety about health, especially during these COVID times. It has been a very, very odd situation where we've not been able to get out of the house. We've not been able to work the way we are working, especially when it happens like I'm a doctor. I am supposed to see a patient in person. Now, this is a new challenging situation where we have to see a patient online. So, in that scenario, there is 1% chance that whether this person will be okay or not, whether I've seen her physically, see him or her physically, or whether I've missed out on something. And especially, I say, I have not seen their feet. Online, I've seen their head, neck, but I've not seen their feet, how they respond to a situation. So, in that situation, because the fight and flight episode is most marked in the feet of the person. So in that case, yes, I have that maybe I have not taken that case as I would have done it in the earlier times. So one, the second thing is in the COVID times, we all have been at home. Though we have been safe, we have been with our loved ones, but we have not been able to do things which we were doing earlier. Like there has been a scare, there are two scares of an unknown virus. Nobody knew what this virus would do. With our mental health work and homeopathy work, there was no actually there was no fear on my side on that part, and I have suffered from COVID also. So that time, when the time I had COVID, I didn't have fear. I even that time I realized I normally have fear of lizards, and when I got my test done, there was a lizard just standing near, not even a lizard, a chameleon on the near the table of the person, and I was not fearful at all. If I would have been in the other sense, I would have feared a chameleon. The third thing is when we are working at home, we are constantly at home, we are with anxious patients, we tend to believe their aspect also. So one standing where you've been very tough enough, where you've been holding the whole scenario yourself, you also start crumbling.
Thank you so much for that. Yogini, I believe your mom wasn't well, is what you said to us yesterday or day
Right.
before. And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
through a very difficult, challenging time to see her uh, move with health into a very difficult place. I'm sure
Yeah.
things changed around you, and which is where you went into plant-based diet. So, could it
Right.
part of your change be the anxiety? Could there be any anxiety that you experienced at that time? What was your learning around the fears that your mom had? She's not there anymore, and how did that impact you? Thank you so much.
I think the anxiety, I never had anxiety in life, but yes, now that you talk about that phase, because I was not here. I was not here. I was in US. I couldn't travel because I was 8 months pregnant. That anxiety that every night I slept was a day in India. That anxiety that if I go to bed and something happens, I am not listening to it. What if I don't hear the phone call? What if this happens? So yes, that was a very bad anxiety phase. It was more of a fear. It did not manifest into me physically because my husband was very supportive, but it was a lot of fear in there. कि अगर कुछ खराब हो गया तो क्या, you know. Uh, but somewhere inside we knew what was going to happen. But still, there's always a fear. Now that I work with patients, and my mom didn't have anxiety. I'm very surprised because when you mentioned it, my mom never ever said that she had the fear of dying. She had the fear of, losing. But when we did her energy healing, okay, I'm sure you all have also practiced energy. And we had no head or tail of energy healing or mind health. As I said, we were not into this. And the person who was doing energy healing said that, you know what, she's only hanging on to her daughters. You're the only hope and the only uh, worry which is holding her back, which is holding the soul back. It was a completely different world that we thought of, and like, yeah. And that's when me and my sister took a strong stand, and we said that we do not want her to suffer physically. So we actually had to go through that pain. We had to do a soul talk and tell her it's okay. We don't want to see you in pain. We rather let you go. And that was the most painful moment of my life. So today also, when I work with patients, I do tell them this story often, that it's hard, but sometimes we take that decision. But anxiety is very funny, Anuji. It's like you don't know where it starts and where it ends. I had a 75-year-old patient, and he has this anxiety of reaching to places. If you tell him na yahan pahunchna hai, to ekdam he will like shake off कि ये time पे यहाँ पहुंचना है. When we dug deep, the point is that every time he wanted to do something for the family, he was either late. कभी भी कुछ भी फैमिली के करना है कि किसी के वो पैसे पहुंचाने हैं, whatever, he was always late for things. And that manifested into time anxiety, which was very funny. If I look back, it's like so funny. कहाँ से शुरू होती है कहानी, कहाँ खत्म हो जाती है. So the moment you disassociate both and you tell him बस ये दोनों अलग अलग चीजें हैं, and you choose your time from now on. Don't work on people's time, you work on your time. The problem goes away. So it's not difficult to deal with anxiety. That anxiety for me, somewhere the fear created depression, and a lot of things happened. But it's not that difficult to come out. I would not say easy, but yeah, it's not difficult. Once you recognize the problem, you can solve it. Just
Uh,
be ready to solve.
I think it's awareness that creates everything, and not just awareness. We need to accept that we are not feeling okay, and these
Right.
two are most difficult. Awareness, because we don't know what's happening, and then acceptance that whatever is happening is okay. So, Gopu sir, you spoke about your
But
wife.
Dr. Anu, 1 second. Let me tell you this also. I have seen people misuse this word also to a great extent recently. People have been using this word of anxiety so often just to gain attention also. It is also becoming a bad habit for people, जहाँ वो anxiety खुद से create करते हैं ताकि husband का attention मिलता है. Children are creating the anxiety ताकि माँ बाप का attention मिलता है. They have been misusing the word also to a great extent. So we, as practitioners, need to draw a line कि ये attention grabbing है कि real में fear है. We need to
Absolutely.
get there.
Absolutely. So let's go to Gopu sir. Gopu sir, you have a wife who's sometimes suffering from panic attacks, or she also has anxiety. Now, you also told us the causes of why she could have had anxiety. You, as a caretaker, what do you do to keep her in a safe place, in a good place? So that's not easy job. Thank
No, no. What happens is when she gets anxiety attack, as I think Rashmi said, uh, she will turn cold, she will start sweating, she will have fear, and then she will need somebody sitting by her all the time and talking, keep talking. If you're silent, then she will say, talk something. And she will hold on to you with her hand and say, talk, don't keep quiet, keep talking to me. So this is a very typical symptom, and of course now her frequency of the attacks are very very less over a period of time of 8, 9 years now. She is on to homeopathic medicine, like Dr. Rashmi talked about, and of course she also once in a way talks to a clinical psychologist just to air her thoughts and things like that. So overall, whatever other people have shared, especially the experts, the symptoms are very, very clear. But as a caretaker, we have to give her a lot of support during that period. It could be 1 hour, it could be half an hour, it could be 2 hours. The period cannot be determined. So she wants to talk to her homeopath also immediately. She will say, dial the homeopath. I want to talk to her. I want to talk to her. So she gets onto the phone and she has a quiet chat. Then she will tell her what is the medicine to take and all that. then she calms down. So she needs somebody to talk to immediately, somebody by the side to calm her. So this is the effect or the, uh, I mean, that is the sign of the attack, how it goes for that 1 hour or so. Then it subsides. Of course, she has to take the medicine. So very typically, homeopathy medicine, SOS or something, she'll take and she'll calm down. But that particular period, she has to go through that. So the caretakers have a big responsibility.
I can
And
just
whenever she gets the attack, she will call. If she is outside, she'll say, "I've already got the attack. I'm on the way. Can you come? Can you come and pick me up, or you know, come to this spot? I want to be with you." So she'll call one of us, and we'll go and be with her and bring her home.
she is in awareness and she's accepted the fact, and so she seeks out for help herself, and you guys are there on the other end to give her that help. So it's a whole program together. It's not like
Each
one day
program, yes,
disappears. It's something that you need to support. So Joanne,
yeah,
you said something really interesting, that even though you worked with a, and all of us have, I mean, some of us are real counselors here, we've been working with a lot of anxiety patients, but you felt that there are a lot of changes happening in your life. So could you talk about your personal experience as to what is really happening? And I would ask others to refrain from giving any ideas right now. Can we just hear what she has to say, and then let's see if they can anything be done? But it's a request to everybody to keep quiet and just hear. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Actually, you've all given me some advice already, and I've written 3 things down. Um, so one comes from Vasvi, and this is about reflection and doing the inner work, and the difference between the self-reflective work in which we're getting to the root cause and we're looking at what this is about is different to the thinking about the trigger situation. So for me, what's been coming up through the inner work is the deeper patterns, what we could call the epigenetic patterns, and thinking about my own grandmother's anxiety. And so rather than thinking about the situation that's triggering me right now, which is a new country, complete change, wow, maybe this is something that I can heal from that perspective. The second one has just come from Gopu, which is to talk. And I've been reaching out within your community and also within other friends back in the UK. So having somebody to talk to is really valuable, both to hear myself, but also to hear their perspectives, and your perspectives is really wonderful. And the third one came from you, Anu, which is to take action. So my tendency has been to get stuck in what I would call an analysis paralysis, thinking, and not taking action. And both Anu and Kwesi, brilliant at just do something about it. So I'm learning that from both of you is one way out of the anxiety is just to take action. You might not do the right thing, but you'll feel better for having done something. So really thank you for this really amazing input.
Thank you so much. And so well you've put it together. So when she brings about genetics, and which is basically spoken by Bruce Lipton, and in our world they call him Brucey. That's how they talk about him. Uh, Actually, you've compelled me to think. My grandmom, uh, at some stage in her life when she was around 50 something, suffered from anxiety. And she would be constantly obsessing that somebody is going to be cutting her blouses, somebody's going to make her get into her storeroom and take things away from her, somebody is going to say things that are not okay. And we often would sit down and laugh, because we would find money everywhere. Like it would be a 10 buck which was kept in a petticoat, and then another 15 buck that would be kept somewhere else. She would distribute and spread out her things so that nobody would reach. The other thing that she would do, at that point there was a Coca-Cola that was the new drink in India, and I'm talking now like ages back. She's passed over many years back. And so I'm talking about 80 years back when Coca-Cola came into the Indian market. And for her, Coca-Cola meant status. and she would have a crate of Coca-Colas in her storeroom where she also kept her jewelry and her valuables. Now, that she would actually count every day the bottle and say, is it missing? So what she would do was she would drink the bottle and then blame others and said, oh, किसी ने मेरी ले ली है, somebody has taken my Coca-Cola bottle, somebody has cut my blouse. And today when I'm sitting in the other side, I understand that she wasn't searching for the petticoat, she wasn't searching for Coca-Cola, she was probably searching for the love that my grandfather couldn't give her. My grandfather was a very wonderful man, yet, only a husband knows. I mean, he was her husband. He could be a grandfather to me, but he was her husband. And as her husband, I don't think he gave her what she really wanted till the end of her life. And her search for his love probably made her search in every direction, searching for something that she could hold on to and say that is hers and I will keep it for myself. Nobody else takes it. It's because I won't can't talk about my family secrets here, but I do know what's really going on at the back of everything. It's because probably she never felt that my grandfather was completely with her. She always felt that, oh, will he have another woman in his life? And that fear that he will have another woman in life distanced her. It was her biggest secret that she didn't share with anyone. And that secret that she kept within herself separated her out from her family. So I'm just now talking about secrets and anxiety. So, Sumita, do you relate to this in any whichever way that you may have a certain secret? We don't know, want to know the secret, but it could cause an anxiety in your system. We all have secrets, guys. We all have a
Yes.
part of us that we don't want to show anyone. It's like, oh my God, I want to be seen only as a good person. Like what we did yesterday, only as right, only as good, only as somebody who is beautiful. But who decides what you show, what you don't show is up to you. Who decides what you reject is only up to you. So, Sumita, over to you. If you have anything to share over here.
Definitely, Anu, hiding a secret and first confronting a secret, to keep it as a secret is the biggest anxiety factor, I would say. And when we start doing that, definitely it starts because somewhere you have to make those changes, those adaptability to, always cover it up. And definitely, and whenever you feel that there is something which is not going to be in that covering up stage, you tend to get anxious. So that's, and I think that starts from a very like a childhood phase, when, like, how little children, when they start doing something, and when they are doing playing or doing something, and suddenly the mom enters, and somewhere they know, like my daughter, when she plays with like when she tries to make a room messy, and she knows that mom doesn't like a messy room. So the moment she knows that I'm going to come, or I'm, around her, she will try to just make it cover up, or like a, she'll start giving reasoning. So I feel a lot of giving reasoning is also a part of a anxiety factor only. We try to cover up, we try to give reasons for our behavior, and it is manifested when we say anxiety manifested in a physical form. I would say anxiety is first manifested in the behavior form, because a lot of temper tantrums what we see in children, a lot of small areas where we can see that this is deviation from the normal, is actually an anxiety, a form of anxiety. So the roots really start from like every story starts from the time you have been conceived from your mom. So it's like this only. So for everybody, if my in my pregnancy I'm anxious about something, that definitely has been transferred to my daughter or my child. So I feel that definitely, this is a very strong factor where if it is about secrets also, so somewhere it is in the behavioral manifestation. When you are trying to be portraying yourself as somewhere very, I would say very, somewhere where you are just trying to be as normal as possible, but somewhere you are hiding a very big secret in your heart, and you can't show up to people. So that's somewhere people can't judge also, and you
Absolutely.
have to be like absolutely normal, you can't show up.
No, you can't. So we'll go over to Yogini because she has to leave early today. So that would be the last question to Yogini. Yogini, secrets and anxiety, or something
Uh,
happening
so
to.
when you were just listening to you, and I was thinking, do I have any secrets? So I don't have that kind of secrets, like something that I don't want to share. But I will tell you that I have told you before that I was an obese child. I was 80 kgs in my 10th grade, which was huge. And I don't know if people around me really mocked at me, or is it myself who always felt that, people looked at me differently. But yeah, I would tell you that secret that even today, I do have a body image problem. I still, whenever not with my husband, not with my family members, but if I have to go and meet, or go for a school reunion or meet those people, I want to make sure that I look so perfect that they feel guilty of kind of mocking at me or bullying me at that time. Maybe they never did that. They really probably didn't do that. It was my head making up stories. But yeah, that is my secret that if I have to go and do that, I want to make sure that they should look at me and say, Are, who is this? Are, ye wahi ladki hai kya? That
Yeah.
kind of.
So
Yeah,
the
that's my psychology. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, wonderful. Excellent. Let's go to Jane. Jane, I think people hide money in our culture from their men. Children were never given money as much they wanted. Then you have people who are in business. They had to taxation purposes. Or what would you say? Would this cause any kind of anxiety, any kind of hiding? Even if it's money, it's about how you felt about yourself. Now we're talking about money because it's about any insight on that.
So when there is anxiety, uh, the, the two parameter in which one would react is either they will not react at all, so they will not take any steps, or they'll take extreme steps. And
Ah,
everything, this are two different kinds of personality. One would be like it's like frozen thing, or the other would be taking too many actions, either to hide something or to probably do something with an intention that it will generate some result at least. Now both the scenarios are not going to help with any decision. Both the scenarios are not going to help with overcoming anxiety. What is required is what's his anxiety about and how to respond to it. So if the anxiety is about the finance, then coming, further deep down into what is the real anxiety about the money. I have seen people who have money have more anxiety about money than the people who don't have money. So probably it is coming again from, the way we have been brought up, or the way we have heard conversations about money, and something that we are holding on to this conversation. So going deep inside this conversation will help us overcome the anxiety.
wow. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Jane. That was brilliant, right? From another point of view, completely. Vasavi, what would you give your insight now on the similar stuff?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I really liked what you just said about the fear of losing. So I think that anxiety gets created when you have something and you're in constant awareness that you possess it. It could be money, vanity, relationship, anything. So when you're in constant awareness of that, then you're constantly afraid of losing it. So this fear of losing something, I think that is like a very big thing. It could also be losing harmony, like in a household. So the few minutes when there is harmony, you're not able to enjoy it because you're in that fear that it's going to just get broken. So I feel that is where this fear of losing becomes very important. And the one thing I'm understanding from hearing everyone is that I think anxiety, even though it's a very uncomfortable place to be, it very oddly is a comfort zone. I feel it's a comfort zone, which is why you are always anxious. Otherwise, no one will always be anxious because there's some fear. So it could be 10 different fears: fear of going to a meeting, fear of facing someone, fear of an interview, fear of having a conversation with your mother, a difficult conversation, anything. So that fear, so the anxiety somehow is like a shield. It allows you to just justify to yourself that you don't have to face your fear. It's too much for you. It's too much for you. It's too much for you. So you just block it all up, or you stay in, you shut down, or you take extreme actions, like you said. And I feel so instead of facing our fears, we use anxiety as like a clutch or like a crutch to avoid our fears. And then we maximize the fear in our mind. We make it so much bigger because we're not actually facing it, and it all becomes about what if, what if, what if, what if, what if this happens, what if that person says this, what if I do this, what if I ruin it. And then we don't actually go in the arena, in the playing field, and we don't actually play. We just become a spectator in our own life, because that's what anxiety does. And I feel I have done that. And the more and more I'm realizing is that it's a comfort zone. So it it's something that you do to stay away from doing what you actually have to do. Uh,
Wow, that's such a amazing insight right now. Gopuji, secrets and anxiety, are they connected? And a little bit more on what Jane has said, because those were very important points.
Yeah. So, couple of things. Secrets don't create anxiety, according to me. Secrets, you like to keep the secrets very close to your heart, and you don't want to reveal it, so it doesn't really keep any bring about any anxiety. But money does. If you have a lot of money, then also you are anxious. If you have less money, also you are anxious to get more. So both ways, finance or having money is definitely a big cause for anxiety. The people who have loads of money, let's say tons of money, they are very anxious, very stressed. कि कहीं पकड़ा ना जाए, कहीं रेड नहीं पड़े, क्या कुछ ना होवे उनको. That anxiety, that fear is the worst. It can lead to even death, according to me. There have been many instances of people fearing fearing that and getting a heart attack or something like that. It's possible.
Yeah.
People on the other side of the boat with lesser money or wanting to earn more, they have a different kind of stress. And how do I get more money this month? Or if it is like a day-to-day issue or making two ends meet, then that is a very big cause for anxiety. Yeah, how will I manage the expenses for this month? How will I manage this cost, this expenses, that expenditure? So that kind of scenario is also causing you stress and pushing you to the wall. That's when people do make mistakes, financial mistakes as well as strategical decision making mistakes. So I come in there as a strategic consultant and help people not to take the wrong decision, take the right decision at the right time, which is very
Wow.
important in one's life. If you don't do that, you are getting into trouble. So
Absolutely.
these are two aspects I would like to highlight on that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And let's go to Joanne. Joanne, what do you think about what Vasvi's been saying, and Jane has been saying, and Gopu's been saying, and about secrets and anxiety?
Yeah, I'm really loving everything I'm hearing. I think Vasvi's so young and yet so wise with this idea that anxiety can be a comfort zone and stop us from taking action. What I just got from Gopu is actually maybe a wider feeling that anxiety is also about attachment. So you, Gopu, just talked about the anxiety around holding on to money, and the secrets might be the holding on to our self-image and not wanting people to find out something about us. So are we creating anxiety by having an attachment? Are we holding on to something which is then the anxiety about losing or changing in some way? So I'm just reflecting on that whole idea that if we let go of our attachment to the way things should be or the way we think we should be, would we then be able to let go of our anxiety?
I think that's a great idea that you've thrown. And with that, why not have a topic tomorrow about being out of control? All about control, being out of control, and let's see what control talks about. Because, and let's right now go to Rashmi and go further, because we haven't asked her. What about what Gopu sir, Jane, and everybody is talking about, the money issues and secret and anxiety?
Uh, Anu, I really like the idea, Jane's idea, that what we have, that is what we anticipate we will lose. So, like she said, that when people who have more money are more anxious about losing it. People who don't have money are not anxious about losing it. People who are like, even in the COVID times, I used to wonder that there were so many people who were working as laborers. They had no anxiety about the disease. People who were at home, safe in their homes, they were worried about disease. So similarly, if we have secrets, definitely we are going to worry about letting them out, because that is our possession. Whatever we possess, we are anxious to let it out. And like Vasvi said, very rightly said, that it is like a shield. Now that I'm understanding, is, yeah, it's like a shield that we are creating that anxiety subconsciously, so that we may not dissociate ourselves from our possession.
Absolutely.
So
So,
what we should do is rather dissociate ourselves from the anxiety rather than the possession.
absolutely. So I'm going to give you a situation, each one of you, and see how you would perceive it and how would you deal with it. So let's start with Jane. Jane, there is a man who comes to you, invested hugely in shares, and he
Mm-hmm.
hadn't before investing.
He
And now
hadn't.
he hadn't come to you before investing. He's finished in, and the Harshad Mehta thing has happened, and the share market has fallen down. And from being rich, whatever, he is totally down there. Bank doesn't now, practically nothing is there, and he's lost and he's really anxious. You, with your qualifications, how could you help him? Thank you.
So I think I heard your scenario, just half of it. So let me say the person wants to invest and he is passing through this Harshad Mehta time. Is it so? Is that your question? I
No.
don't know, but I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
So this man has already invested. He
Mm-hmm.
hasn't before.
He
Then
has.
he hasn't come to you before investing.
Okay.
He's been investing for years. He's done very well,
Hmm.
and the share market drops like it happened during Harshad Mehta story.
Hmm.
And now he has nothing left. His house is getting sold. His wife doesn't want him. His children are angry with him, and everything has gone wrong. From the absolute right, now he's in an absolute wrong, and he needs you.
Hmm.
Can you help him?
Yeah. So the first thing we need to understand, is he bankrupt or not? If he's not a bankrupt, then there are chances that he can survive and he can come back. If he's bankrupt, then the entire scenario is different, and he has to start from zero. He has to probably start from different business idea, different career options. But if it's not at a zero, then probably it's a wait and watch time, because Sensex goes up and down, and this is everyone who has observed stock market must have seen no ups or downs are there for lifelong. So if the market is down, it is suddenly going to go up. Yes, come out from the scripts, from the shares which have washed you away for wrong reasons, but the scripts which are good, stay invested, wait and watch, and time will give you the solution.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Let's go to Gopusa. He helps the startups. So let's have a question for him. There's a banker who's given up his work, and he doesn't have he used to be a big CEO of the bank, and now he is feels like nobody, though he has a lot of money and he can invest in small businesses. So he is really looking for a startup, but he's really anxious to start at that low because he has an image of himself where he feels that he's the king, and he will have to go down at a worker's pace. How will you guide him with all that you have? Thank you.
Yeah, so for a CEO or an ex-banker, the challenge always is the status because these people have a very high ego in terms of their status. They have been used to being a CEO or a managing director or even a GM of a bank. After retirement, after they leave the bank, they continue to have that feeling of the status, and they feel that everybody should treat them the same way as they were treating him earlier. So that is one big roadblock in terms of their thinking. In terms of the money part, they are wise enough to put the money where it is required, and they are also intelligent enough to find out from their colleagues or their peer people as to which are the startups which are doing well, which are the products or which are the industries which are doing well, like an IT product or an aggregation product or maybe a pharma product, whatever. They will do their homework very well because now it is their money and it's not the bank's money. So they will be doubly careful as to where they will invest. But they would definitely research, do a lot of homework, and then only jump onto the bandwagon. So my advice to these kind of people would be that when you come down as an investor, you got to look as an investor point of view and not from a banker point of view where you are lending money to a borrower. So your perspective, first of all, has to totally change. You need to make yourself in the shoes of an investor going into, let's say three IIT guys are there and they have done some startup in the techie field and they are coming up with some application which could be helpful for XYZ industry. So you got to understand the technicality of that product and then offer your investment advice or also put in your own money into that product. So that I would suggest that they take sound advice from technical people and also from financial people and the market movers or the people who are in the startup arena and get some idea about that. There are many forums of that which can be they
I
can.
think is so meaningful. So three things I got from here. They need to change how they perceive themselves and their self-image. They need
Yes.
to be work, and now they're going to be investing their own money, not someone else's money. So they need to look at the money in a very different way. They need to also take financial advice and a techie advice if they're creating something. And they need to know that they are not going to be treated like a sub anymore. They may be treated at the level that they have to be doing everything from the zero. Like Jane said, it's going back to the roots and starting from the zero, or just wait and watch before you can do anything big or small. Don't rush too fast. So that was very, 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 very interesting. Let's go to Rashmi. Rashmi, there is let's take an example of a counselor who's brilliant. She has been amazing with her work, and she was never married, so she could spend all her time in counseling. And now she has different responsibilities because she found the man of her dreams. She probably has more than two children, and she's sitting at home, and suddenly she feels useless because all these years she was giving advice to other people, but when it comes down to herself, right now she's not able to get out of this loop that she's put herself into. Two children and a lot of other things that are going on, and somewhere something has gone wrong. What will you say to her as a homeopath, as a doctor? How could you help her out? Thank you.
Um, First of all, I'll analyze her case and see where it started from. And if it started from when she found her man of dreams, and whether it started from a trigger there itself, or it had started because she was not working all these years, or it started off because there was a status attached to it, like sometimes in the families it's like, you are not working, you're supposed to, I'm the person who's earning. Whatever the trigger is, I would work on the trigger, or I would work on the root cause of it rather than the trigger. Then I would talk to her and tell her, see, this is the root cause of your problem, and now how can we shift that root cause? And because homeopathic medicines act on the mind and the body simultaneously, they are not like other medicines which are just on a focused thing. We have an individualistic, I mean, I should put it in a right word, like every homeopathic prescription is a tailor made prescription for that very person. So if there's another person who is coming in for that very illness, his medicine or his prescription might change. So what we do is we find that tailor-made prescription for that person. Why that? What is happening? What is the root cause of the problem? What is the behavior change of the person because of that thing? Why the person is looping, and then we prescribe the medicine.
Thank you so much. That was so useful. Let's go to Sumita Mendirata, and I give you a situation. There is a mother who's constantly at a go with a child, constantly telling her she's not good enough. The child doesn't know whether she should speak up to her mother or not speak up. She's constantly pacing her mother, constantly thinking that her mother should be in a comfortable zone. And now the child is completely lost and suffers from anxiety because no matter what the child does, the mother is really not happy. No matter what the child does, the mother is constantly irritated, and you can see her irritation on her face, in her behavior, in the way she moves. What is it that you could do for the child and the mother?
Anu, for doing for the child, I am definitely going to be with the mother, because the child is just manifesting what he or she has faced day in and out. So even if I give a lot of techniques to calm down or, relax or, help the child, definitely they will work when the energy at the home with the mother changes. It's so I would definitely like to work together in terms of meeting the mother at the first time. That is when we take the case history and talk about it and understand, because definitely the mother is carrying the anxiety maybe from her mother or her father, where she was always constantly paced the way she is doing with her child, because somewhere you carry that kind of a trigger, which is given to your child. So definitely that will help. And also the techniques like I use with brain gym, or like a color therapy which we've recently learned. So those things, like an activity, I can definitely do with the child to make the child understand how you can calm down or relax, or understand when you are going to get triggered. That awareness can be created in the child's mind at the same time. But if I'm not going to work and understand and make the mother really understand and deal with her anxiety every day in and out, it is definitely going to be with the child. And I have done that a lot of times,
What is
definitely when the child comes to me.
to believe that there is anything wrong with her?
What if the mother refuses to believe?
If there's anything wrong with her, she tells you,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with me.
Yes.
You please work on my daughter.
Yeah, I have faced that, Anu. This was a very, I would say, a very young child dealing with a suicide case. Young, when I'm saying, it is almost around 14 or 15 years old boy. And they were very nicely sending the child to me. And every time what the child's story was giving, I said, at least please once come and meet me. Finally, they agreed. The father and the mother came. And when they sat in front of me, the mother gave me another story, the father gave. Then I had separate sessions with the mother and the father. And ultimately, I could understand that the story coming from the parent was totally different from the child, you know. And when I said I need to work with you because your son, because I had to tell them that your son is undergoing suicide. Do you know that? Because it's a very dangerous thing. Though he's my client, but this is something I need to inform you. So they were like, at the end, I just got a message. Kindly, I'm paying you. You deal with my child. This is how much I know I have these issues, but I can't go ahead. I can pay you. Please help my child. People do that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a choice. Thank you so
It's
much
a
for your
choice.
thank you so much for your honesty. Coming to you, Vasavi. Somebody's really fallen unwell. She's got COVID. She's just dealt with COVID beautifully, no problem. Now COVID is done with, and she's developed anxiety. She suddenly feels like she's lost. She doesn't know where to go. She feels she will not be able to stand. She's very anxious. She feels that she will not be able to continue her work properly. She's not able to manage everything. And she really wants to manage, and she's put a stipulated time to herself. I want I want my anxiety, or she's not even calling it anxiety. She doesn't want to see it as anxiety, which is okay. But she wants to kind of make sure she gets done with as fast as possible, and it just isn't happening. What's an advice you would give her?
So she's anxious about getting her work done or getting COVID again, or is it just general?
It could be too many things together. Her family members shouldn't get COVID from her. She should be ahead. She should be able to manage all her duties well. She was basically able to do that before, but not anymore. Any advice for her?
Okay, so I think what it seems like here is that she's taking on a lot on her plate, and she's taking on a lot of other people's worries on her shoulders. So she's feeling very burdened and over responsible for everyone. So I feel the advice would be that maybe the best way would be to compartmentalize a bit, because her mind is just all over the place. As a filuda ban gaya hai dimag ka. So she needs to just focus. Okay, so she's anxious about her work, but why is she anxious? Sometimes I feel anxiety has no, the logic goes out of the window, because if you could manage something before, then why are you feeling you can't manage it now? So sometimes a flowchart of questions helps you ask the person, okay, what is the reason? Then if she gives a reason that, okay, it's maybe because I had COVID and now I don't know if I can go back. So then you'll ask her, okay, what are you feeling different after COVID? And then from there you take it on one by one, one by one. So I think with someone like that, it will be about taking baby steps and telling them that it's not all or nothing. She seems like she wants to be perfect in everything. So she seems to be someone, it's either that I need to be perfect in my work, in my family, in my health, or if even one thing is not working for me right now, then I'm a big zero. So
Mhm.
if my health isn't good, my work is going fine, then that's also not good. So I think it would be to tell her that you don't have to get stuck in the negatives, because sometimes maybe there are 10 positive things happening, but one negative thing will stand out for her and she'll get stuck in it and then get overly anxious about that. So I think the advice would be to ask her questions, to go one by one. Why are you worried that your family members would get it? Okay, we can put safety measures in place. Everyone can use a sanitizer, everyone can use a mask. Even if they are not doing that, that's not your responsibility. So it would be to just break down everything in logic and reason, because the anxiety otherwise would take over her mind.
Wonderful. So the last question of the day to Joanne, and let's see, I'm giving you a situation. This lady is having an affair outside. She likes someone else, but she's in a marriage with someone else, and she doesn't know what to do. She's caught between the two because she cannot leave her marriage, because if she leaves her marriage, it's her, there's a lot at stake. And if she goes with someone who she really really loves, she's not really clear whether that person can take care of her. So she is kind of caught up in the whirlpool of two men in her life. One who she loves both of them, mind you. It's not that she has anything against any one of them. She really loves both of them. But there's a her heart is somewhere and her physical body is somewhere. and she doesn't know how to deal with this anymore, and it's creating a whole uproar of emotions in her. What's an advice you will give her?
Okay, so it comes back to this issue that we talked about earlier, I feel, about secrets. If it stays inside her and it stays a secret, then it's just going to overflow. So to talk, first of all, to a coach or friend, or get as many perspectives as possible. And really, I think to actually be honest is very difficult in that situation. But if she's got that relationship with her husband where she can be honest about it, then either they can work through it together and become stronger as a couple, because this is something that happens in couples regularly. Or if she decides, after having discussed it with her husband, to leave, then she's doing it from a place of clarity, which is another word that's come up today, about being clear about the decision she's making and not doing it from the perspective of secrets and hiding. So to really take the time, as Jane said, to get the clarity on what's the right thing to do and to be open about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Sumitas. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Vasavi. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Gopu sir. Thank you, Dr. Rashmi. I am in so much of gratitude to each and every one of you, because, from nothing, we've been creating something. And I hope this is of some use to someone, because when you speak from your heart, you really touch and move people. But when you think from covering yourself and without honesty and authenticity, it doesn't touch anyone. I think I have to give it to all of you. You've been so honest and from your heart. So thank you so much for that. And tomorrow we'll be talking about the topic, which is out of control. So let's see how that goes. I will give you the timing. I think it most probably will be the same timing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That evening, does that work for everybody? See, we're fixing the time right here. We're fixing the topic right here. And we talk right here. So see you guys tomorrow at 4 o'clock for the same topic, that is out of control. If this panel wants to join me back again, please do write a message to me on my window saying, hey, we would like to be there tomorrow. And I will float it around for others who want to join in. Thank you so much. Aapke liye, aapki zubani. Fatafat.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Anu. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Danke, danke.
Thank you.
Thank you.